Well, folks, it's looking like Pierre Poilievre might be heading back to the House of Commons as one of his MPs has just decided to allow Pierre to run in his riding in the next by-election.
Today, the Conservative Party announced that Pierre Poilievre will run for re-election in Alberta. After Pierre Poilievre failed to win the riding that he held for more than 2 decades, losing to a rookie Liberal candidate by more than 4,000 votes, the Conservatives have cleared a path for him to return in rural Alberta.
Hey everybody, it's Damien Couric.
Damien Couric has represented Battle River Crowfoot since 2019, but he's quitting so Poilievre can run. This is a safe seat. The Conservatives won the riding southeast of Edmonton with nearly 82% of the vote.
They're going into a riding that won by a huge margin, 82%, to remove virtually any possibility of people organizing to defeat him a second time.
Now, this actually wasn't the only riding that Pierre was offered. However, as you could see from the number almost being 82% of the vote, it is a very, very safe ride. Now, unfortunately, I don't think Pierre is going to garnish the same amount or more, because when the media went out to ask people about this, they got some mixed results from this news.
We need more representation out here.
Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is hoping that this can be his new riding in the heart of rural Alberta after the MP for Battle River Crowfoot, Damien Couric, announced his intentions to step aside so that Poilievre can run here. No. Oh, no.
I think that's a nice move. I think it's good.
The Conservative leader was left without a seat after losing in the riding of Carleton, a seat he held since 2004. The Conservative Party confirming he will run in the Battle River Crowfoot riding once a by-election is called. The riding stretches from southeast of Edmonton to northeast of Calgary all the way to the Saskatchewan border. Its primary industry is agriculture and has historically been a Conservative stronghold, with Couric winning his seat with more than 80% of the vote.
Definitely going to hate to see him leave. There's no doubt about that, but he'll pop up somewhere. We need a change. We need a drastic change in the country for sure. So
Sad to see him go, but it'll be great to have the leader of the Conservatives here in Drumheller's constituency. So
I have nothing against it.
Yeah.
I really don't, yeah.
Others feel Poilievre isn't a good fit.
He's a career politician that has done nothing, has earned nothing.
Wrong choice. He is not a local. He knows nothing. What's he going to come and do down here?
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith calling it a beautiful homecoming moment, thanking Couric for stepping aside to help foster Canada's Conservative movement.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that those ladies were most likely Liberal voters. They could be Conservatives, but the way they responded to Pierre Poilievre's name, to me, indicates otherwise. But what I wanted to do today is take a look at Damien's post that he put on Twitter with this big announcement here, or statement, I guess. But here he writes, Pierre Poilievre is the right guy for the job. Let's get him a seat in Parliament so we can restore the promise of Canada. Battle River Crowfoot will be well served by him, and I promise to stay in the fight going forward. Very nice little message. But the thing that is quite incredible is, if Damien had just waited until October, he would have got his pension. He's actually stepping away from his pension, something that Jagmeet Singh decided not to do. He thought about his pension before his country. Damien here is trying to put his country, his party, above his own pension, which is amazing. Now, Pierre did respond to this, and he wrote, "It is with humility and appreciation that I have accepted Damien Couric's offer to resign his seat in Battle River Crowfoot so that I can work to earn the support of the citizens there to serve them in Parliament. Damien's selfless act to step aside temporarily as a member of Parliament shows his commitment to change and restoring Canada's promise. I will work to earn the trust of the good people of Battle River Crowfoot, and I will continue to hold the Liberal minority government to account until next federal election, when we will bring real change to all Canadians." Now, one thing I will say is I hope he actually does do this, because that was a lot of the criticism that was coming from Carleton, was that Pierre actually wasn't there the last election, and he only showed up there at the very last night of this previous election. And Bruce Fanjoy did kind of mention that Pierre took this riding for granted.
And we could see that in all the communities in the riding. We just kept working, and Pierre, God bless him, he took the riding for granted, and people don't like to be taken for granted.
2 decades, I'm sure, will do that to you. His team behind him, maybe they said, don't worry about it, even though they did expand the borders of his riding, and it did get into fairly liberal territories. Like Canada is very liberal, and the way they affected the ballot, like there was so many factors that his campaign team should have taken a look at. Jenny Byrne's been getting a lot of flack, a lot of heat, and I think it's deserved because this campaign was not run properly. We've already done a little bit of a breakdown there. Hindsight is 2020 at this point. But after seeing Pierre possibly getting a second chance at pulling this off, I think he's going to think otherwise about maybe having her there or the team that he surrounds himself with, which is probably for the best. I also think that he has to open up this communications with the media, as I mentioned in my breakdown the other video. I think we are seeing right now a lot more conservatives getting onto the CBC, getting onto CTV, and David Cochrane loves pointing this out. He loves emphasizing that, oh, it's been years since I've seen you, or I've reached out to you many, many times. But the fact is, we need to have them on TV. We need to have their presence on these media outlets, regardless how we feel about them, because the alternative is when they're not on those platforms, we don't hear their voices. And I think that's what happened to a lot of these MPs. They got affected by not being able to get out there, talk. Everything kind of had to go through the top down method, which all the MPs are working together. They all need to be able to go out there, talk to their people, use their own voice, their own platforms. And there has to be trust in the other conservative members. And I'm really hoping if Pierre does get back into the House of Commons, that this is the approach that he's going to be taking, where he can just let his people run free, say what they need to say, do the interviews that they need to do or are asked to do, because we need to have people kind of warm up to the conservatives. They only see Pierre Poilievre, and he's the attack dog of the party. He's the face of the party, which is great. It's awesome in the House of Commons. But when it comes time for election, it did not really work. And as I said, there was a lot of prominent conservatives that ended up losing their ridings. Now, outside of this news, the other big news today was Carney coming out and giving this announcement.
I've already indicated to Mr. Poilievre that if it's the decision of him and the Conservative Party to trigger, if I can put it that way, a by-election, I will ensure that it happens as soon as possible. Okay. No games, nothing, straight.
So I heard this, and just like David from Moose on the Loose, he put out a short earlier today, a little confused as to why Carney would even float this idea around. He knows how well Pierre Poilievre does in the House of Commons. He's an attack dog. He's a apex predator, as David Cochrane likes to put out there. And that's kind of his bread and butter. That is his realm. Question period, the House of Commons, he knows how to work that. Mark Carney is a fresh noob at the job. He's now in the role of Prime Minister. He's never been in the House before. Not to say that he can't handle conversations or communications. We saw how he kind of did on the debate stage. Nothing really fazed him too much. He just gave some really, really boring answers, but it didn't seem like anything really got to him. Now, with that being said, he might actually do a little bit better than I'm expecting, because most of their answers are all scripted. They all have their answers written out, and as we saw from Justin, or any of the other liberals, they just constantly read and repeat and repeat and repeat off their sheets that they're given. Whereas Pierre, he pretty much practices his stuff. He knows how to kind of wing it, or he doesn't really ever have a sheet of paper to read off of, but he does know what his talking points are. Carney, if he does have his teleprompter or something written down, his ums and ahs kind of come down, and he is able to communicate a little bit more clear. Maybe that will be the benefit to him in the House. But with this whole announcement, there's been a lot of conservatives who have been kind of praising Carney for this. And what I mean is, I decided to go check out some comments. Now, CPAC, CBC, they don't have any comments. However, CTV posted this. And if you go to the comment section, there's a lot of people that say, wow, that's a W for Carney. No way, shape, or form am I a liberal or Carney supporter, but you must give respect when it's due. I'm not going to lie, I didn't want Carney to win, but I respect his answer and his approach. I don't support Carney or the Liberals, but I really admire him letting Pierre run in the next by-election as soon as possible instead of keeping him waiting for as long as 6 months. And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, because if you look at the calendar, Carney is not really doing anything that spectacular. So as I mentioned in a few videos ago, they don't come back till the 26th. They're going to have 4 weeks in the House, and then they go on a 2.5-month break for summer, and then return in the fall. Now, if we go to the rules of Elections Canada, it states, under the Parliament of Canada Act, when a seat of the House becomes vacant, the Speaker of the House of Commons informs the Chief Electoral Officer by means of the Speaker's warrant. Then it goes on to say, after receiving the warrant, Canada Elections Act authorizes the Council to fix the date on which the Chief Electoral Officer is to issue the writ. The date of issuance must fall between 11 and 180 days after the Chief Electoral Officer receives the warrant from the Speaker or the 2 members of the House. The Governor in Council also fixes the date for Election Day, which cannot be earlier than 36 days or later than 50 days after the Chief Electoral Officer issues the writ. Now, after reading all that, this is why I don't think that this is such a spectacular move by Carney, because it says it needs to fall between 11 and 180 days of the resignation, basically. Well, 180 days would take us to November. 11 days would be in the middle of June here. However, you need 37 days as the minimum amount of time to run the election. If they're going to be going on to summer break, it's not going to be happening here. So that means once they return in the fall, then they would have the 11 days. 11 days would basically take you into October. Then if you had the 37 days, that would take you into closer to December, meaning then they would be only in the House for a little while before they go into Christmas break. And that would mean that only really we'll be seeing Pierre back in the House closer to January or February of 2026 for when they decide to come back from their Christmas break. Now, the only other option I see here is if they choose not to do the summer vacation. Then if it is announced in 11 days, which is the earliest time they could do, and then they do the 37 days, it would look something like more of mid-July. Now, if Carney did wait 180 days and takes us to November, then after he decided to do the writ, they did the shortest amount of election, bring us into December, but then they go on to Christmas break, and I don't see that being the case. So either way, it's going to happen around the same time as it was normally scheduled to happen, unless summer break doesn't happen. And Carney yet has had no indication that he's actually going to be canceling summer vacation for the MPs or anything like that. But that being said, if you go back to the comments, there's also comments that say stuff like, about time an adult is in the room, this situation and Carney's response just makes Pierre look even worse and Carney look like the bigger leader. Even the Conservatives are noticing. Now, to this degree, again, what else is Carney's option? He either doesn't allow Pierre to come back as soon as possible, which makes him look like a coward, or he does allow him to come back as soon as possible, and then it makes him seem like he's a good guy. So out of his 2 options, of course, he's going to go with the one that makes him look the best. Does this mean he actually is doing something extraordinary? No. He's just following the regular standards of practice, and as I just laid out with the time frame, these things would have happened around the same time anyways, assuming again that summer vacation is not being dismissed, because Pierre was the only one who stated that they were going to not be going on summer vacation. They were going to be working right through it.
And so I have some good news and bad news. The good news is Canadians can elect a government that will bring change. The bad news for the politicians is your summer vacation is canceled. We are going to keep Parliament open all summer long to pass 3 laws to bring change.
Carney has yet to say that. But with all that being said, I'd love to pose a question to you guys. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that they're actually going to work through the summer? Do you think that they will have this election through the summer? Or are they going to stick with their summer vacation and prolong it, and then Pierre won't really get back till closer to Christmas? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. It's awesome for the channel's growth. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. I gotta go get some sleep. I am exhausted. Take it easy, guys.